Were you the strong one in your family? You know, the one who didn't have the luxury of breaking down, the one who held it together when everyone else fell apart, the one who swallowed their pain so others wouldn't feel worse. Maybe you were still a child, but you became the calm in the storm, the rock, the helper, the peacekeeper. And while people admired you for your strength, they never asked what it was costing you. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone took care of you? Because here's the hidden truth that no one talks about. Being the strong one often means being the one who was never truly seen. You were there for everyone, but who was there for you? You smiled through sadness. You kept moving when you were falling apart inside. And you did it so well that even you started to believe you didn't need support. But deep down, you did. You still do. This video is for the version of you that's tired. The version that's been carrying the weight of everyone else for far too long. The version that never learned how to rest, how to ask for help, or how to say, "I'm not okay." You learned to survive, and that was powerful. But now, you deserve more than just survival. You deserve to heal. So if you've ever felt invisible in your pain, if you've ever been praised for being strong but never comforted for your suffering, stay with me. Because in this video, we're going to unpack what you've been holding all these years. And I promise, you're not alone. There's a reason why you've carried this role, but there's also a way to finally put it down. And maybe for the first time, this won't be about being strong for others, but about finally being honest with yourself. There was a moment in your life when you had to be strong, not because you wanted to, but because you had no other choice. Maybe your family was going through a hard time, and you were the one who had to hold it all together. Or maybe life got difficult early on, and you learned that falling apart wasn't allowed. So you kept your feelings inside. You smiled when you were hurting. You helped others while feeling empty yourself. That kind of strength doesn't come from peace. It comes from needing to survive. Over time, being strong became who you are. You're the one people come to when they need help. You're always the one who listens, who fixes, who stays calm. People admire that about you, but they don't see how heavy it is. They don't see the moments when you're alone, feeling like you can't keep going. You've been holding so much for so long that asking for help feels like weakness. So you don't ask, you just keep going, even when it costs you your peace. Maybe this started when you were just a kid. You tried to make things better at home, even when it wasn't your job. You stayed quiet so no one would get upset. You grew up faster than you should have. That kind of strength takes away your childhood. It teaches you to forget your own needs so you can keep others happy. And when you grow up like that, you forget how to take care of yourself. You don't even remember what you need anymore, only what others expect from you. But real strength isn't about hiding your pain. It's about being honest with yourself. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to need help. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The strongest people aren't the ones who never cry. They're the ones who are brave enough to feel, to speak up, and to let someone in. Still, after years of holding everything in, letting go can feel scary. You start wondering, if I stop being strong, who am I? And maybe that's a question worth asking. Who are you when you're not trying to hold the world together? Who are you when you're not pretending to be okay? It's not easy to slow down. It's not easy to let yourself feel. But when you do, you begin to find a different kind of strength, one that's soft, real, and free. And when that happens, something inside you quietly begins to change. At some point, helping others stopped being just something you did and became your entire identity. Maybe it started when someone you loved needed you, or maybe you just got used to being the one who was always there. Little by little, taking care of everyone became your job, even if no one ever asked you to. You started putting other people's needs above your own. You stayed up late to be there for someone, even when you were falling apart. You gave your time, your energy, your heart, until there was almost nothing left for you. Being needed can feel good. It makes you feel important, like you matter. But there's a quiet danger in always being the helper. You begin to disappear. Your dreams, your rest, your emotions, they get pushed to the side. You tell yourself you'll focus on you later, but later never comes. And after a while, it doesn't even occur to you to ask, what do I need? You've been so focused on others that your own life is running on empty, and nobody sees it because you're so good at smiling through the exhaustion. Maybe you grew up in a home where taking care of others was expected of you. You helped raise your siblings, managed adult problems too soon, or became the emotional support for your parents. That kind of childhood teaches you to feel responsible for everyone around you. It also makes it hard to say no, even when you're overwhelmed. So now, as an adult, you still feel guilty when you try to put yourself first. But here's the truth. Your value isn't based on how much you do for others. You matter, even when you rest. Taking care of people isn't a bad thing. It shows your heart, your kindness, your love. But when it becomes your whole life, it can quietly turn into self-abandonment. You stop checking in with yourself. You ignore the signs that you're tired, lonely, or burned out. The danger isn't just that you'll get exhausted. It's that you'll lose touch with who you really are. So take a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time I took care of me? The answer might surprise you. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to change that. Because behind all your helping, there's a part of you that's still waiting to be seen, still waiting to be chosen, not by others, but by you. You learned early on that showing your feelings could cause problems. Maybe when you cried, someone told you to stop. Maybe when you got angry, they said you were too sensitive. So, little by little, you started to hide it all. Not because you stopped feeling, but because it felt safer to stay quiet. You didn't want to upset anyone, make things worse, or be seen as too much. So you pushed your emotions down, hoping it would bring peace. But instead, it just brought silence. And that silence started to hurt. When we silence our emotions to keep the peace, we don't really solve anything. We just bury it. The sadness, the frustration, the confusion, it all stays inside. You smile on the outside, but inside you're screaming. And the worst part? People think you're fine. They think you're strong, calm, unbothered, but they have no idea what it costs you. And after years of doing this, you start to lose touch with how you really feel. You know how everyone else feels, but you forget your own emotions. Many people grow up in homes where keeping the peace was more important than being honest. Maybe your parents fought a lot, or maybe one of them couldn't handle your emotions. So you became the easy one, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble. That's not peace, that's survival. And the more you kept it in, the more you felt invisible. But here's the truth. Real peace doesn't come from hiding who you are. It comes from being able to feel and still be loved. It's hard to unlearn this. Even now, you might hold back tears when you're alone, or stay silent during an argument just to avoid conflict. But bottling up your emotions doesn't protect you. It disconnects you. It cuts you off from joy, connection, and even healing. You can't heal what you won't let yourself feel. So give yourself permission to feel everything, even the messy stuff. Write it down, talk to someone safe, or simply sit with it without shame. That's where healing starts. And once you begin to hear your own emotions again, something changes. You don't have to carry the weight of pretending anymore. You don't have to choose between peace and truth, because maybe for the first time in your life, you can finally have both. Some people lose their childhood in loud, dramatic ways, but others, they lose it quietly. There were no big scenes, no dramatic exits, just a slow fading of play, innocence, and safety. Maybe you had to grow up fast because the adults around you weren't really there for you. Maybe you learned to take care of others when you should have been cared for, and one day you realized you didn't get to be a kid. Not fully, not freely. You missed the part where you felt truly safe just being small. You might not even realize it until much later. Maybe you see other kids being carefree, laughing loud, asking for help, and something inside you aches. You didn't ask for that kind of strength. You didn't want to be the mature one or the responsible one so early. But life didn't give you a choice. You became independent, not because it was fun, but because it was necessary. And now, even as an adult, it's hard to relax, to play, or to let someone take care of you for once. A stolen childhood doesn't always look like trauma on the outside. Sometimes, it looks like always being praised for being so good, while inside, you were lonely, confused, or scared. Maybe no one asked how you were doing. Maybe no one noticed you were carrying too much. And over time, you learned that your feelings didn't matter, that being low maintenance was the only way to be accepted. But deep down, that little version of you still exists, still hoping to be seen. Reclaiming that part of you doesn't mean going back in time. It means giving yourself what you never got, now. Things like play, rest, safety, and joy aren't just for kids. You still need them. You still deserve them. Maybe it's allowing yourself to laugh at silly things. Maybe it's letting someone else take care of the details for once. Or maybe it's simply saying, I don't have to be in control all the time. That alone can start the healing. And when you begin to reconnect with that forgotten part of you, you might notice something surprising. The strength you thought came from growing up too soon was actually hiding something even deeper. Even when things are going well, there's this quiet fear in the background that everything might suddenly fall apart. It's like you're always bracing for impact, waiting for the next bad thing. You've been through so much that peace doesn't feel safe anymore. It feels suspicious. You wonder, how long will this calm last? And because life taught you to survive, not relax, you never fully let your guard down. It's exhausting, but it also feels like the only way to stay protected. This fear doesn't always shout. Sometimes it shows up in the way you overthink every little thing, or how you double-check everything just to feel in control. You might struggle to trust people, even the good ones, because deep down, you expect disappointment. It's not that you're negative. It's just that your nervous system never really learned what safety feels like. So, your body stays alert, even when your mind tells you it's okay. That's not weakness. That's a survival strategy, one you never asked for. Maybe growing up, things really did fall apart. Maybe the people you counted on let you down, or life kept shifting the ground under your feet. So now, you avoid anything that might make you feel too vulnerable. You say you're fine. You keep moving. You don't pause, because slowing down might mean facing everything you've been holding inside. And that's scary, but you're not broken for feeling this way. You're simply carrying unprocessed fear, and your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. Healing this isn't about forcing yourself to be calm. It's about gently teaching yourself that you're safe now, moment by moment. That can look like small things: breathing deeply when anxiety hits, saying no without guilt, or letting someone hold space for you when you're overwhelmed. Over time, your system starts to shift. You learn that it's possible to fall apart a little and still be okay. That's a different kind of strength, one that comes with softness, not armor. And maybe, beneath all that fear, there's a deep craving, not just to survive anymore, but to finally feel at peace. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that your needs didn't matter as much as everyone else's. Not in words, maybe, but in actions. When you were tired, they told you to keep going. When you were sad, they said, it's not that bad. And slowly, you stopped checking in with yourself. You stopped asking, how do I feel? And started asking, what do they need from me? Ignoring yourself became your normal. Not because you wanted that, but because it felt like the only way to be loved. You got really good at reading the room, tuning into what others felt, being there for everyone else. But when it came to your own thoughts, your own body, your own emotions, you went numb. Maybe now you struggle to know what you even want. You say yes before you check in. You put others first even when you're running on empty. And that disconnection? It doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of not being asked, not being seen, and not being taught to care for yourself. This happens a lot to people who grew up in families where survival came first. If your parents were overwhelmed, you learned to stay quiet. If emotions weren't welcome, you learned to suppress. And when you tried to speak up, you were told you were too much or not enough. So now, even as an adult, that little voice inside says, don't make a fuss, don't ask for too much. But here's the truth. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to matter too. Reconnecting with yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. It can start with small things. Asking yourself how you're really feeling before you say yes to someone. Choosing rest instead of guilt. Paying attention to what drains you and what gives you life. Writing in a journal. Saying, no, I can't do that today, and meaning it. These may seem like small steps, but they're powerful acts of remembering that you exist and that your needs count just as much as anyone else's. Because the truth is, if you've spent your whole life ignoring yourself, it takes time to remember who you really are. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't make a scene. It just sits quietly inside you, growing over time. The kind that comes from feeling alone when you needed someone the most. Maybe no one noticed what you were going through. Maybe they noticed, but didn't care. Or maybe they cared, but didn't know how to show it. Either way, you were left carrying it by yourself. And that silence, it didn't mean you were okay. It meant you were learning to survive without help. When people talk about pain, they often think of loud moments, fights, tears, breakdowns. But some of the deepest wounds come from what never happened. The hug you didn't get, the words you never heard, the times you hoped someone would show up for you, and they didn't. You told yourself to be strong, to move on, to stop needing. But the truth is, that pain never really left. It just got quieter. And the quieter it got, the harder it became to explain. You might even feel guilty for still hurting. You tell yourself, it wasn't that bad, or other people had it worse. But comparison doesn't heal pain. It just hides it. The part of you that didn't feel supported still needs attention, still needs to be heard. And until you let yourself feel what you didn't get, you'll keep wondering why the emptiness doesn't go away. It's not about blaming others. It's about finally allowing yourself to say, I needed more, and I didn't get it. Healing from this kind of silent pain starts with honesty. It starts with telling the truth, first to yourself. Yes, I was let down. Yes, that moment hurt. You don't have to shout it. You don't need to confront everyone. But you do need to stop pretending it didn't matter. Because it did. And once you acknowledge it, you open the door for healing, connection, and care. The kind you should have received long ago. And maybe now, for the first time, you can begin to offer that care to yourself. People told you how strong you were, how mature, how independent, how calm in the middle of chaos. They clapped for your ability to hold everything together. But no one stopped to ask, how much does it hurt to carry all this alone? You got praise for surviving, but not support for the pain it caused. And over time, being strong became the only way to be seen. If you showed your sadness, people got uncomfortable. So you stayed strong, even when it broke you inside. Being seen as strong can be a hidden kind of trap. Everyone comes to you when they need help, but no one checks on you. They assume you're fine because you always look fine. But behind the smile is someone tired, someone aching to be held. And the hardest part? You start to believe that your pain doesn't deserve attention because strength became your identity. So you swallow it, you nod, you keep showing up. But deep down, you're still waiting for someone to say, it's okay to not be okay. Maybe the only time you got attention growing up was when you were being useful. Maybe your sadness was ignored or your fear was dismissed. So you learned that if you wanted to be noticed, you had to perform. Be perfect, be quiet, be helpful. You became the rock for everyone else. But who was the rock for you? When strength is the only thing that gets praised, you start to feel ashamed of needing comfort. And that kind of shame runs deep. Healing begins when you stop chasing praise and start seeking truth. You don't need to earn love through performance. You don't need to prove your worth by pretending everything's fine. You are worthy of comfort, of gentleness, of someone simply saying, I see you. And if no one ever said that to you, say it to yourself. Let yourself cry. Let yourself rest. Let yourself be human. That's not weakness. That's repair. Because maybe what you needed all along wasn't another compliment, but someone to sit beside your pain and just stay. At some point you started wearing a mask, not to lie, but to survive. A smile that says, I'm fine, even when you're not. A calm tone that hides the storm inside. Over time, the mask became so familiar that even you started to believe it. You show up, handle things, keep it together, while your real feelings stay locked away. It's not that you're fake, it's that you learned to hide in plain sight. Because being honest felt risky, and being seen felt unsafe. You wore the mask to protect yourself from judgment, from rejection, from being seen as too much. It helped you fit in. It helped you stay strong. But now, the same mask that once kept you safe feels like a prison. You want to let it down, but you're not sure how. You wonder, if I stop pretending, will people still love me? That fear runs deep, because when your identity is built around holding it all together, falling apart can feel like losing everything. This mask often starts in childhood. Maybe you learned to hide your tears so you wouldn't be scolded. Maybe you stayed positive so others wouldn't worry. You became the strong one, the good one, the one who never asked for too much. And now, even as an adult, you keep performing that same role. It's automatic. You smile when you want to scream. You laugh when you feel like crying. But underneath it all, there's a version of you that's been waiting to be free. Taking off the mask doesn't have to happen all at once. You can start small. Let someone in. Say how you really feel, even if it's just a little. Write a journal entry that's 100% honest. Admit to yourself when you're not okay. These small acts of truth can feel scary, but they're also powerful. Because the more you practice being real, the lighter your life becomes. And the more you'll attract people who love you, not just the version you've been pretending to be. And maybe one day, you'll look in the mirror without that mask and finally recognize the face looking back at you. You've been holding so much for so long, emotions, responsibilities, expectations, that it's finally starting to overflow. Maybe you notice it in your tone, in your patience running thin, or in how easily you feel triggered. You're not an angry person, but the anger is there, and so is the exhaustion. The kind that sleep doesn't fix, the kind that comes from years of giving, suppressing, and pretending. You've been pouring from an empty cup, and now the cracks are starting to show. This kind of anger often surprises people. You've been calm for so long that even you don't expect it. But anger is a sign, not of failure, but of unmet needs, of boundaries crossed too many times, of tiredness ignored again and again. When you're constantly showing up for others but never for yourself, your body keeps the score. It tightens, snaps, aches, and then one day, it erupts in ways you didn't plan, at people you care about. It's not who you are. It's who you became after being worn down for too long. You may feel guilty about the anger. You may try to push it back down, cover it with a smile, or beat yourself up for not being more patient. But what if instead you got curious about it? What if you asked, what is this anger trying to tell me? Often it's saying, I need rest, I need space, I need help. Anger doesn't mean you're broken. It means something inside you is begging to be heard, something that's been ignored for too long. This is where boundaries become essential. Not walls, boundaries. Saying no without explaining. Taking breaks without guilt. Letting others carry their own weight. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to keep smiling through the pressure. The world won't fall apart if you step back, but you might if you don't. Your body, your emotions, your mind, they're all asking for your attention. And the longer you ignore them, the louder they'll get. And maybe that's the moment you realize your anger isn't the enemy. It's the alarm that's finally waking you up. There's a kind of emptiness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from never having felt truly cared for. You may have been surrounded by people, but still felt invisible. Maybe they provided for you, but didn't see you. Maybe they said they loved you, but never really showed up when it mattered. And so you learned how to function without affection, without comfort, without being held. But deep down, that part of you never stopped hoping someone would care enough to notice. It's a hard thing to admit, that you've gone through most of your life without feeling nurtured. You're used to giving, not receiving, to checking in on others, but rarely being checked on. And the longer that goes on, the more normal it starts to feel. Until one day, you realize that you're always the strong one, the helper, the responsible one, but never the one who gets to lean back, to fall apart, or to be held in your own pain. That absence leaves a quiet ache. You might try to fill it in different ways, through success, through relationships, through staying busy, but nothing truly satisfies that longing, because what you're craving isn't external. It's the deep, soul-level care that says, you matter, even when you're not doing anything. You're worthy, even when you're struggling. That kind of care isn't about fixing you. It's about being present with you. And if you've never felt that, it's hard to believe it even exists. But here's the truth. It does exist, and it can begin with you. You can start giving to yourself what others didn't know how to give. That means rest without guilt, speaking to yourself with kindness, surrounding yourself with people who show up for you, not just when you're strong, but also when you're soft. It takes time. It takes unlearning. But every small act of self-care is a way of telling that empty part of you, I see you now. And maybe that's what you've needed all along. Not just to be needed, but to be nurtured. When you've lived your whole life in survival mode, it's easy to repeat those same patterns without even realizing it. You don't mean to. But what you learned becomes what you teach. If you were raised to hide your feelings, you might struggle to handle someone else's. If you were taught to be strong all the time, you might unintentionally expect others to do the same. These cycles are sneaky. They pass down in silence through habits, reactions, and unspoken rules. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're human. We all repeat what we don't heal. The harsh voice you use on yourself can become the voice someone else hears. The way you ignore your needs can teach others to do the same. And if no one ever showed you how to rest, how to feel, how to ask for help, how can you teach that to someone else? The truth is, awareness is the first step. You can't change what you don't even know you're carrying. Maybe you already see it in your kids, in your relationships, in how you react when things get hard. You notice the pressure you put on yourself, and sometimes you see yourself putting it on others too. Not out of cruelty, but because it's all you've known. But this is where the cycle can shift. You can stop, breathe, reflect, and begin to choose differently. You're not stuck, and the past doesn't have to write your future. Breaking the cycle doesn't require perfection. It starts with honesty, apologizing when needed, saying, "I didn't know better, but I'm learning now." It means giving others the freedom you never had, to feel, to rest, to be imperfect. And more than anything, it means giving that same grace to yourself. You don't have to carry the old story forever. You can write a new one where love is chosen over fear and presence over pressure. And when you do that, something powerful happens. Not only do you heal, but you stop the wound from spreading. You were taught that strength means holding everything together. No tears, no breakdowns, no asking for help. But the truth is, real strength looks very different. Sometimes it looks like shaking hands while making a hard choice. Sometimes it's letting the tears fall, even if no one understands them. And sometimes it's simply saying, "I can't do this alone." There is deep courage in being fragile. Not because you're weak, but because you're brave enough to stop pretending. Being human means feeling things, big things, messy things. It means facing moments that scare you, overwhelm you, or leave you speechless. And instead of running from them, you choose to stay, to sit with your emotions, to admit, "This hurts." That's not failure. That's growth. Because healing doesn't happen when we hide. It happens when we lean in, even with shaking hearts and tired souls. You don't need to be invincible to be strong. You just need to be real. We live in a world that celebrates hustle, toughness, and constant doing. But what about softness? What about rest? What about saying, "I'm not okay right now"? Those things are powerful too, because when you allow yourself to be fragile, you also allow others to connect with you. You open the door to empathy, to love, to truth. No one connects through perfection. We connect through our humanity, through the cracks, the stumbles, and the willingness to feel. Letting yourself be fragile doesn't mean falling apart forever. It means giving yourself room to breathe, to feel without judgment, to heal without rushing. It's saying, "I matter, even when I'm messy." It's choosing presence over performance. And in that space, you find a gentler kind of strength, one that doesn't demand but embraces, one that says, "I can be both strong and soft, and that's okay." Because maybe the strongest thing you'll ever do is finally let yourself be. You've spent so much of your life giving, your time, your energy, your heart. You've been the one people depend on, the one who shows up, the one who never lets anyone down. But somewhere along the way, you forgot something important. You deserve that same care in return. Not because you earned it, not because you were perfect, but simply because you exist. Love and support aren't rewards. They're basic human needs, and you're allowed to have them too. Maybe no one ever told you that before. Maybe you were raised to be strong, to be helpful, to never ask for too much. So now, even when someone offers you kindness, it feels strange. You hesitate. You wonder if it's too much to ask. But here's the truth. It's not. You deserve to be seen, to be held, to be supported when you're not okay. You don't have to be the caretaker all the time. You're allowed to be cared for too. Let that sink in. You're allowed to cry and be comforted. You're allowed to ask for help and not feel guilty. You're allowed to be loved on your worst days, not just your best ones. That's what unconditional love looks like. And yes, you deserve that. It starts with letting go of the belief that you have to earn love by being useful or easy. You don't. You are worthy of love simply because you are you. No mask, no performance, no conditions. But if you've never felt that kind of love, it's okay to start small. Start with self-kindness. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, not just those who need something from you. And remember, you don't have to do everything alone. Accepting help isn't weakness. It's an act of trust, an act of healing, an act of saying, I matter too. That shift can change your life in ways you never imagined. And maybe, the moment you let yourself receive the love you've always given is the moment something in you finally begins to soften. You've carried this role for so long, the strong one, the helper, the one who holds it all together. It became your identity, your safety net, your shield. But what if it's time to put it down? Not because you failed, but because you've outgrown it. What if self-love isn't about adding more to your plate, but finally letting go? Letting go of the need to prove yourself. Letting go of the fear of being too much or not enough. Letting go of the weight that was never really yours. It's scary, isn't it? This role gave you structure. It helped you survive. It made you feel useful, needed, even valued. But it also cost you your rest, your joy, your voice. So letting go can feel like jumping without a parachute. You might ask, who am I if I'm not holding everyone together? And that question is powerful, because who you are without the mask is who you were always meant to be, free, whole, alive. Self-love means returning to yourself, not the version shaped by pressure or pain, but the version that knows peace. It means choosing rest, even when you feel guilty, choosing truth, even when it's uncomfortable, choosing yourself, even when no one else does. And yes, it takes courage. You're not selfish for stepping back. You're not weak for saying enough. You're simply reclaiming your life, one choice at a time. This journey isn't about abandoning others. It's about including yourself in the care you give so freely. It's realizing that being everything for everyone is not sustainable, and it was never your job to begin with. You're allowed to rewrite the script. You're allowed to show up differently now, not from pressure, but from love, from presence, from truth. And in that space, you begin to live from the inside out, not the outside in. And maybe, just maybe, letting go of that role is how you finally come home to yourself. Now that you've seen everything you've been carrying, what are you going to do with it? You can keep pretending you're fine. You can keep being the strong one, the helper, the one who never complains. Or you can start giving to yourself the care you've given everyone else. You can begin the slow, honest process of healing. You can finally ask, what do I need? What does my heart really feel? And what would it look like to choose myself for once? Let this be your turning point. You've already survived so much, but now it's time to live, time to reconnect with your real self, time to be held, not just hold, time to feel, not just function. You don't have to do it all at once, but you do have to start, because the longer you wait to heal, the deeper the cost becomes, and you deserve more than carrying everyone else's weight while your own wounds remain untouched. If this message spoke to you, don't let it stop here. Reflect, journal, talk to someone. Take one small step, even if it's just resting without guilt today. And tell me in the comments, what part of this message hit you the hardest? What did you realize you've been carrying all along? If you want to keep exploring topics like this and go even deeper into your healing, hit subscribe and turn on the notification. This is just the beginning of your journey, and you don't have to walk it alone.